Ms. Lasher Fernandez. Mr. Roy, you're recognized.
I thank the Chairwoman. A lot's been covered, and I appreciate it. Chairman Steil, I just want to thank you. Thank you for your leadership on this. Thank you for your work on the mega bill, which I know there's other provisions we want to talk about in other times. And I thank the staff, your staff, for their hard work on this piece of legislation. Just a couple of things. I mean, look, we've covered most of this already, I think, in the back and forth. But the one thing that I want to reiterate, and just Chairman Steil, get your thoughts on this, and then yours too, Ranking Member Morelli, is that currently states are prohibited. Okay, I just want to stop for a second. Currently, under current laws that's been applied through the courts, states are prohibited from being able to check. And a state like Arizona, for example, is running parallel systems, right? A system for state and local elections wherein they check citizenship, and federal elections where they do not because of that interpretation. Am I correct in that assessment, Chairman Steil?
For almost every state, with the exception of states that are not covered under the NVRA, and we've actually seen Wyoming implement citizenship verification recently. They've run an election under citizenship verification, functionally operating in a very SAVE-like way, but the overwhelming majority of states do not have the ability to confirm citizenship verification because of laws passed by Congress. Which is why this is so important.
Right. So given that, we're trying to correct that issue, right? And then, of course, in doing so, we're also making certain requirements around it because we believe it's important to have a standard system nationwide. Is that the fair characterization? One of the underlying issues, of course, and I'm not going to go through the reams of examples, but there are reams of examples that I know your committee's addressed on. Many of us have talked about in other debates in committees. I don't think it's in the appropriate place in the Rules Committee to go through the whole thing. But the examples of cases where individuals have in fact voted who were here illegally present, where there's been prosecution of said individuals, where there have been significant discrepancies in voter rolls that have taken a lot of work to clean off the voter rolls and demonstrate that there are people in the voter rolls who are not citizens, and that this issue is a continuing issue. And there's here, for example, I've got a list of over 100 documented cases of aliens voting in American elections. And one in particular that caught my attention was this case with Ian Andre Roberts, who was serving as the Des Moines, Iowa school district superintendent at the time of his arrest. He was found was a registered voter in Maryland despite his illegal immigration status and long criminal record. And I can go through it. You know, he fled from ICE officials, tried to hide in a bush. He illegally possessed a loaded handgun and a knife at the time of his arrest. He had a long rap sheet. You can go through the entire rap sheet, from narcotics to weapons possessions to reckless driving and other issues. And this individual is a registered voter. Now, there's other examples, and I can go through those examples of specific examples, but the large number of people that are on voting rolls who are not citizens that we're trying to reconcile, and in fact, states are limited and prohibited from doing so in many respects. Would the chairman like to address that for the need for the legislation?
Well, I think the Ian Roberts example is spot on. I mean, you have an illegal citizen, an illegal alien who's residing in Maryland, registers to vote before he even gets into the other legal trouble. He actually pulled ballots in the state of Maryland. I think that is really an important piece of information to know. And then further, under federal law today, it's a simple check the box if an individual, to confirm on a voter registration that an individual is eligible to vote, that they're a U.S. citizen. And there's discussions of whether or not some of these non-citizens are doing that inadvertently, whether or not that they're doing that maliciously. But a large number of states are issuing driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. And after we have President Biden allow millions of individuals into the country illegally, as those individuals go and obtain driver's licenses in some of our bluest states, we have really increased the risk that we've identified, and that's why your bill, the Save America Act, is so absolutely essential.
And it's gone through it. I think Ms. Houchin went through it. I think perhaps Ms. Fishbach went through it. But the claims of the barrier for married women, and you went through it in your recent engagement, and that what you guys are going to be dealing with. We believe that the SAVE Act, as it was passed previously twice on a bipartisan basis, both times, addressed that in a way that did not leave any problem or concern for married women. They'd be able to address the issue, and state law, as you pointed out, is more than flexible across the country to be able to deal with those issues. But at an abundance of concern, right, we added a provision in here to try to make sure there's no ambiguity. In other words, to clarify and ensure that there's additional procedures. Same thing I might add with our men and women in uniform. That we believe that they were covered under UOCAVA, that they would have been in a place where they would have been able to handle this with military IDs, but we made very clear here to say, hey, it's not going to apply under UOCAVA in this iteration of the bill. Anything you want to expand upon to make sure I haven't missed anything on those issues?
No, I think you lay it out really well. We are incredibly explicit to make sure that an individual who's changed their name has the ability to go and register to vote. We want those individuals to register to vote. And if we are looking for a parallel in this structure, if an individual goes from one state to another and wants to sell their car and they've had a name change, every state in the country has a process for this. We don't hear Democrats concerned that an individual who went and changed their name and wants to sell their Chevy is all of a sudden has this massive challenge in front of them. Every state has a process. You can go through every single state represented on this panel. I went through and pulled it up at the Department of Motor Vehicles in each respective state. It's a simple process you would go through, and it in many ways mirrors the work that would be done for an individual to register to vote, completely manageable and very straightforward.
Last area, I think time's going on here a little long, so I'll try to wrap up. Someone said earlier, we're talking about the voter ID issues. I'm correct, it's like 36 or 37 states, I think 36 that have voter ID already, correct?
36 states have voter ID.
Right, and student IDs are often issued to non-citizens and non-residents. That's one of the issues we did want to address and we were concerned about, right? That's an issue, and that we did specifically want to address that in the bill, correct?
Absolutely.
And that, you know, look, I would go through a few more things. Look, I would just say this. The clear intent of this bill is to deal with a clear problem where there are, in fact, discrepancies in voter rolls and there are clear documented cases of people who are non-citizens who vote, right? And it is an overwhelmingly popular issue, as the chairman has laid out. 80+% support across bipartisan, across various ethnicities, backgrounds, poor, rich, rural, urban. Overwhelming support among the country for voter identification, and that only American citizens vote. Would the gentleman agree?
Absolutely, because it's common sense.
And the clear intent of the legislation, and that we've tried to bend over backwards to ensure is clear, is that there be no burdens on people, maybe some burdens on states to get their voter rolls right, but to ensure that American women can vote, that there's any issues with their names, they can deal with it for the very narrow and small number of people for whom that might be an issue in the timing, that there's affidavit process, and that there's an issue that our men and women in uniform are covered, and therefore it's a straightforward piece of legislation to simply say, show up with a voter ID like 36 states already do, show your voter ID, vote as a part of your civic duty, ensure that you're a citizen. You don't have to deal with the citizenship issue until you have an event, marital event, you move, you change like anything else, and we've tried to make sure that everybody's covered. Is that a fair characterization of our intent and what the bill does?
Very fair.
I thank that, and I yield back to the chairwoman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy.